last time we had a really fruitful conversation a couple of months ago. We had a really good discussion on the agribusiness industry of Brazil. What positive things Pakistan can learn from Brazil, and what other countries can also learn from Brazil. These were a few things which we discussed. So first of all, I need to tell you that Anna is business intelligence and strategy projects in the agribusiness industry in Brazil, and she's also an analyst on agribusiness. So today we're going to talk on contemporary issue, one of the contemporary issues, which is U.S.-Ukraine war and food crisis. When we talk about war, of course, there's so many issues associated with that. Like if we talk about food crises are also one of them. So, Anna, what do you think? Just keeping politics aside, what do you think? Just because of U.S. and Ukraine, do you see any food crisis?
Hi, Alveena. First of all, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's always great to be here with you and to chat with you and your amazing audience here. First of all, I think that we've been facing challenges primarily around 2020 since the pandemic started and everything that has been evolving with that. And now with the war in the past months, with the Russia-Ukraine war, which are all scenarios of extreme challenges to the whole world, not only to those directly involved countries, but to the whole world. Especially if we consider that Ukraine, for example, is a great producer of grains, primarily corn and wheat, for being more specifically. So
Yeah.
those are all key pillars of challenge as a whole to the whole world. We've seen some analysis and numbers and reports coming up considering these challenges, and they are mostly directly related to economic matters alongside with the war, of course, but economic matters related to the rise of inflation in the whole world, which affects, of course, every nation, but primarily developing economies, most effective in a more strong way, let's say like that, because we are talking about countries that are developing, the process of developing its economy and its
Yeah.
economic strengths. So inflation is a great issue in this sense.
And also
And
oil prices. Oil prices were also interconnected with that, and oil prices actually fluctuated across the globe.
yeah, of course, oil prices are going to affect the food prices as well because everything is interconnected. So
Yeah.
we've seen a scenario, a challenging scenario in terms of global economy, which is going to impact food prices, which is going to have impact in the whole world, especially in developing economies.
Yeah, exactly. So this was our viewpoint on U.S.-Ukraine food crisis, and not just food crisis. A lot of things are interconnected with that. Now, coming to the expectations of this year crop on Brazil, what do you think? What's the expectation in Brazil of this year crop, and what are the elements or key factors which you think are playing a vital role in the agribusiness in Brazil?
Yeah, great question. And just to give another overview about specifically talking about Ukraine, the crops produced there are used to feed over 100 million people worldwide, and especially in developing nations throughout United Nations programs. So this is another factor that is going to bring another whole of challenges as we haven't had enough. So yeah, this is the main scenario. But considering Brazil, we produce a variety of crops, as you are aware of. We are among top 5 producer and exporters of the most relevant crops. We are talking here about animal protein. We are talking here about grains, as a whole, especially soybeans and corn. We are talking here about sugar, orange juice, a variety of products that are used in different industries to feed over 200 countries worldwide. So we've seen some challenging scenarios, especially if we consider the sugarcane crop, for example, which is used to produce primarily sugar, ethanol, and also bioenergy, but primarily sugar and ethanol. We've seen a challenging scenario in the crop season. Um, the grains season, the summer grain season, which is about to start in the second half of the year, haven't started yet, but let's hope that we are going to have an amazing crop season. In terms of prices, which is something that has a huge and directly impact in how those businesses are run. Um, we have a challenging scenario in terms of cost of production, because everything that we've talked already, the inflation, the rise of oil prices that you've mentioned. So this is a challenge that is going to require a lot of planning, considering the crop inputs cost. And in terms of prices of the crops, we also expect a positive scenario. It can have a squeeze compared to the past crop season, primarily because of the appreciation of the Brazilian real against US dollar, which is affects tremendously the price scenario. But the overall result is still a positive scenario in terms of prices as well. So we expect a positive scenario in terms of price and a rise in terms of cost of production. In the final balance is expected that we have also a positive scenario in this crop season, and we've been seeing on average positive scenarios in the past two crop seasons, and in this one is also expected to have a positive scenario as well. Again, pending on some variations, considering the aspects that we've just mentioned, but the scenario is positive.
Okay, Anna, as we talk about the every business overall industry in Brazil, do you think policies matter for a better agrarian economy, or do you think there are some other factors which would actually make any state a better agrarian state? What are the key factors for that?
Great question. I think definitely public policy matters. Of course, it matters. It's going to matter for every nation. But from my perspective, I also think that the private sector needs to rely on public policy, primarily on regulations, to make sure that everything is running the way it should be in terms of legal terms. Let's point out that. Not relying on public policy in terms of subsidize, if you know what I mean. And I'm talking here
Okay.
primarily on economic subsidize, okay? If we consider, for example, an overview on the Brazilian agribusiness, which, as we talked, is positioned among the highest competitive players in the world in the most relevant crops that we have, and we are talking here about large scale crops primarily, okay? The subsidized farm loans that comes from public policy from the government, they don't cover even 1/3 of the whole market necessity. So what the private sector has been doing throughout decades is developing itself to work to produce with high competitiveness, and this is what I believe. Okay,
And
I believe in.
when you talk about the private companies, do you think in Brazil the major stake goes into the hands of for better agrarian economy to private companies, or it's with the state that they form better policies. They're working for the agriculture. So whom do you vote? Do you think like go like they are the ones who are actually progressing Brazil in terms of agrarian economy more and more?
Well, I think definitely the private sector is the one boosting the economy in Brazil, and we are talking here specifically about the agribusiness sector, of course. But I think in our country, my perspective is that we can say that we have a fair communication in terms of public policy making, considering
Okay.
private and public sector.
So
Okay,
there are
I
no
think
barriers.
that. Sorry.
There are no barriers between private and public sector.
Well, Alvina, I think I'm not quite sure if it's fair to say that there's no barriers. Okay, I think we have huge challenges, extremely huge challenges. What I'm trying to bring here is a overall overview, because I
Okay.
think if we consider other countries, we are going to have more
Yeah.
challenges in terms of communication. Okay, I
Okay.
think here in Brazil, the private sector on a certain level can communicate itself within the public sector in a health way in terms of public policy making for boosting the agribusiness sector.
Okay.
That's a what I would comment on that. That doesn't mean that we don't have challenges. Again, we have huge ones, but
But
on an overall balance.
generally speaking, comparatively less barriers. As we talk about my country, like there's a huge difference in public and private sector. The private sector always needs to collaborate with government. They actually do a lot of things so that they can have better stakes, or maybe better subsidies, or whatever, even better policies. But unfortunately, at many stages, we've seen that state had not been very good in terms of policy, especially like we don't have any long-term policies, particularly when we talk about agribusiness sector. We don't have any technologies coming into agribusiness and making Pakistan more stronger. So these are the things which I think we lack a lot.
Yeah, that's extremely important for you to point, because to give you an example, considering the Brazilian market, okay, in this sense. And again, I'm not talking here about economic subsidies, okay? I
Yeah.
think this might be a process that may be needed on a certain level in determined periods of times, okay? We can have that, but I don't believe in that policy as a long-term policy for boosting competitiveness. Okay,
Yeah.
um, I believe in the public sector creating strong and effective regulatory policies, because
Yeah.
this will boost market confidence and this will boost entrepreneurship and economic development in the private sector. That's what I believe. But considering that um, window of communication between public and private sector here in Brazil. Just to give you an example, we remodelated one of our most relevant laws for the agribusiness market in the past year, in 2021. Okay, which one of the factors was the promotion of the agribusiness market to enter in the farmer level to the capital markets. Okay, and why this is important? Again, going in the sense of not subsidizing necessarily, but boosting competitiveness. Okay,
Yeah.
this is important because it brings a whole new window of financing opportunities
Okay.
to different levels of businesses in the agribusiness industry. Okay, we can talk about large scale farming operations, we can talk about mid scale farming operations, we can talk about small scale farming operations here. It opens the capital markets, resources, and possibilities to the farm gate. Okay, and this is a public policy directly affecting the private market. So this is the kind of public policy that I believe in, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, let's come on the issue of global food security and improvement of global development. How do you see this when we talk about Brazil?
Yeah, this is very, very relevant. There's a study from the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, released a couple of years ago, that says that until 2050, the world will reach over 9 billion people. Okay. So for us to be able to feed this amount of people, the food production would need to rise by 60%. And Brazil alone will be responsible for more than 40% of that growth. That means that currently every 5 dishes that are consumed daily globally, more than one comes from Brazil alone, considering all the planet. So the country is extremely key for us to continuing promoting food security. And food security is directly related to peace. Okay, you can have war with food security, but you cannot have peace without food security, and that's given. That's given in history. So that's the relevance of everything that we've been talking on in terms of the war, Russia war, Ukraine, the pandemic, the inflation, the rise of cost of production, the expects on the price level, and also the public policies that we've been discussing our opinions about effectivenesses. So this is everything extremely interconnected, and Brazil is key. Other regions in the globe are key as well. So this matter that you are bringing is very, very relevant for our global economy, and is a fact of decision, of policy making decision today, and I believe it will be for the past year, for the coming years. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's perfect. And as usual, I love talking to you, Anna. And on our next show, we're going to talk about Brazil and China cooperation. When we talk about agrarian economy and joint ventures in terms of economic foreign relations, we'll definitely discuss that topic as well, because I don't think this topic is being discussed a lot and people don't know much about it. So in our next show, we're going to talk about it, and maybe we talk more on food security as well. So thanks for joining, and I'll definitely see you soon. Okay, take care. Bye.
Thank you, Alvina. Always great talking to you. Bye bye.